Chiefs Kingdom, welcome back to another episode of All Chiefed Up. We're back with another podcast for that ass. And today, Chiefs Wire's John Dillon, taking over for Charles Goldman, comes out with a story. 5 Chiefs we want to see more from in week 2 of training camp. Steve, let's talk about it.
Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. 95% of our viewers have not subscribed. We need you to do that for us because we're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers before the end of the season. We need your help. Hit that sub button, hit the like button, get this out to more Chiefs fans. Mike, who's the 5 people that he said he wanted to see more of in week 2 of training camp?
Okay, it's all defenders, my man. We got George Karlaftis coming in at number 1. He says Karlaftis is a second-year Chief who was a standout in 2022, but yet to make a significant impact in training camp. Number 2, he's got Leo Chenal. He says the second-year linebacker is known for laying the wood on opposing ball carriers, so it wasn't surprising he had a quiet start in the non-padded practices. He shouldn't have any trouble adjusting to an expanded role in 2023. Number 3, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, which we've all been talking about. Where's Felix? How's that hand? He says he's among the Chiefs' most exciting young prospects, but he hasn't been mentioned much in coverage of training camp so far. Number 4, Danny Shelton, big Danny Shelton. We seen him throwing a touchdown pass the other day, baby. Like he's not invisible out there. How does a 500-pound guy be invisible, Steve? Shelton is a wild card. He's a wild card. That's what he goes on to say. And then Keandre Coburn, another defensive lineman here. He says Coburn could play himself into a significant snap share in KC's defense with continued effort in training camp. Steve, did any of these guys stick out to you, or did he just kind of miss the mark here?
To me, these are guys that I want to see how they do in the season, but as far as second week of training camp, I really don't care about the pass rushers. Right? Because we've talked about this before. What do pass rushers do in training camp where they can't hit the quarterback? That's what they're paid to do, is to get to and hit the quarterback. Not a big deal that you haven't heard a whole lot out of Felix or George Karlaftis. The guys that I want to see more of in the second week are the guys that are in those position battles that we're wondering if they're going to make the team or not, which is a lot of the wide receivers. I want to see if Justin Ross continues to be spectacular out there. I want to see if Richie James keeps stepping up. And then on the flip side, I want to see some of those young corners. I want to see how Nick Jones is doing, how Khalif Hallisey's doing. These are the guys that I want to see more of in week 2. So I can kind of get a feel for maybe where Andy and Spags are going to go as far as picking this 53-man roster.
Right. I think out of his list, the only person that kind of intrigues me a little bit is Danny Shelton. Is Danny Shelton going to be able to get himself on this roster? We've seen him running some offensive plays the other day that I alluded to. We've heard him saying he's dropped some weight, and the coaches are wanting to see how he progresses, and they've taken a vested interest in trying to get him back to being a game wrecker and things. But can he make this roster? I'm not worried about George Karlaftis. George Karlaftis is going to be on this team. I'm not worried about Felix. He's a first-round pick. He's going to get there. Leo Chenal is not going to not be on this team. Coburn is making this team. I don't see anybody on here that is that big of a deal. Like you said, in week 2, these are defenders. We've yet to even be able to get after the quarterback, and we've barely been tackling so far. I want to see more wide receiver play. Can Richie James, can Justin Watson, can Justin Ross continue to take the step forward? Do you have a Nico Remigio or a Kakoa Crawford or a Ty Freifogel? Can those guys press to make the roster?
Right.
There's so many. There's a good battle going on between Jack Cochran and Cam Jones. Who will be the 5th linebacker, the 4th linebacker? I don't know which linebacker, but how many are we going to take? So many more storylines here.
Yeah, for sure. These are the ones that interest Chiefs Kingdom. They're the ones that interest me, are the ones that we're not so sure about how this is going to shake out. So that's why everybody's got their eyeballs on the wide receivers, the DBs, and like you said, the linebackers. If they decide to take more than 4, then maybe Cam Jones or Jack Cochran makes this roster. I'm not for sure. But other than that, man, I just don't see the need to be worrying about what George Karlaftis is up to in week 2 of training camp. As long as he's healthy and good and out on the field, I'm happy.
Right. As long as they're not on the not in the medical tent, I think we can all agree I would like to not hear about them much. Because if we're hearing about them, they're probably in the medical tent at this point, since they're not hitting nobody. Let's move it along, Steve. We got Chris Sims. A viewer actually sent us a story. Sibby11 sent us a story on Gmail, and they were like, hey, I was watching Chris Sims on his podcast called Unbuttoned, and a viewer sent in a story. I'll bring it up. At Chris Sims, at Connor J. Rogers, who is his co-host, welcome back, Big Dog. Who's your top 5 secondaries? And they actually said Miami Dolphins, I think they give number 1. They put Denver in the top, and I don't remember who the 3rd team was, but they actually put the Chiefs in the top 5 secondaries, Steve. Let me roll the clip. You guys watch this. Let me know what you think about it.
You heard my Dolphins and Seahawks 1-2. Now, the running after that,
Seahawks,
this might
that
shock you. Here's going to be my next two teams. The Chiefs and the Bengals.
I had Chiefs at 5.
Okay. The Chiefs.
And it shocked me. I went through this exercise, and I was like, holy shit. They are so much – because we look at Mahomes, Kelsey, and Chris Jones that you forget how good the secondary was last year.
Exactly.
I'm with you all the way.
Right. I mean, Reed is a good safety.
Yep.
And then you add in Brian Cook, who's going to be the other starting safety this year, who played last year, and he's good. There's a reason they let Juan Thornhill go, because they went, wait, we drafted his replacement. He's playing this year. You know, McDuffie's good at corner.
I love him.
Right.
I think he was phenomenal when he played
Williams
last year.
and Watson, I think, are really damn good. And, of course, have size and length. And then, of course, you're talking to L'Jarius Sneed as well. And I just go, they have more than the 5. They have everything, let alone versatility to match up. So, like the Chiefs, again, this is where they're going nowhere. And we were in amazement. And I know we talked about this last year. They won the Super Bowl, and they were one of the younger teams in football. And they've retooled and scouted and built the right way. So the Chiefs are one of the next teams for me.
Steve, Chris Sims giving us a little bit of credit, to the DBs. Can anybody be overlooking the Chiefs secondary after that first-year performance in a rebuild year?
That's the thing, man. It's hard not to give the Chiefs credit when they are as deep as they are in defensive backs. I mean, as far as corners go, we have excellent corners. They were rookies last year. We won the Super Bowl on the back of some of their play.
Right.
Josh Williams interceptions, Jalen Watson interceptions. It's so hard to not recognize that. And then, of course, like he said, Justin Reed's a great safety. Brian Cook's going to step up this year. He didn't even mention picking up Mike Edwards. I mean, he didn't mention the rookies. He didn't mention Shamari Connor. He didn't mention Nick Jones. And we still talk about guys like Khalif Hallisey on the outside looking in. I mean, we have plenty of depth. And, of course, if Najee hadn't got hurt, we could be talking about Najee Johnson as well.
Right. This clip was actually pre-Najee Johnson injury. So they just missed him. There's so many people here, so much depth that people are missing people. If you're not part of Chiefs Kingdom and you're not following this closely, you don't even know how deep our corner room is. But the fact that they put us in the top 5, and I think Chris Sims had us as high as number 3 or 4, that is pretty good, man. Chris Sims, give us a little bit of credit. I like to see that for our young secondary. And I'll tell you, it's easy to say Sneed is a good corner, and it's easy to say McDuffie. He's a first-round pick. But to go out and give Jalen Watson a 7th-round pick, to give Josh Williams a 4th-round pick some credit, and the fact that they intercepted Burrow, Jalen Watson intercepted week 2, Justin Herbert, and wins the game for us, man. Those guys contributed. They're going to continue to contribute. And, again, you said no Nick Jones, no Shamari Connor listed. They did not mention Mike Edwards. They didn't mention Deion Bush, who is a huge special team contributor. I think with Najee going down now, I think Pete Sweeney come out with a new roster prediction today. A new roster prediction. He threw Justin Ross on there and said we're going to take 7. He had him off previously. And then on the defensive side of the ball, he's pulled Najee off, and he's actually said they're going to take 5 safeties. They're going to take every safety we got, he believes, which is going to be Connor. Deion Bush now makes the team. Mike Edwards, Cook, and Reed, obviously. Do you agree with that? Do you think we may take all 5 safeties now?
That's a possibility, but I'm not so sure about it. I kind of wanted to do our 53-man roster today, just a prediction. But then I was thinking about it, and I don't want to have to update it like weekly.
Right.
I don't want to. I want to wait more till it's close to the cuts and then go ahead and do ours. That way we don't have to keep updating, because a lot of it depends on their play in the upcoming weeks of camp and even the preseason. So I'm just going to hang out and wait a little bit. But, yeah, 5 safeties is a possibility. I don't see it. I think 4 is probably pushing it. I think if they take, Deion Bush to go ahead and use him in special teams, maybe that's a possibility. But I do know that we're going to have Justin Reed, Brian Cook, and Mike Edwards getting most of the snaps out there.
Right. Well, our original 53-man roster projection before camp started actually is identical to Pete Sweeney's now roster projection he's got. The only difference is we got Niang out and we put Prince Tega Wanogo in. And then we had Najee Johnson making the roster, and we had Nick Jones on the outside looking in. And now I feel like you got to switch those two, because now Najee's on IR, and I believe Nick Jones is on. So we were onto this all the way back, weeks and weeks ago. Like you said, it'll get a clearer picture the longer we get into it. But with that being said, let's move it along.
That time's yours.
Before we get to the comments, I want to give a shout out to our boy Gil. Gil with a 20 bomb, baby, on a video.
A freaking 20 bomb, baby. Always supporting. Gil's the man. We have an awesome ACU crew, which is our members. They're amazing, and they support us all the time, and we thank you.
They are. And you know what? We're not live right now, but you guys can still throw some legendaries and maybe a little catch-up in the chat for Gil because he's the man. Drop a bomb for him down there. Let's get on to the first comment, Steve. Now with Dave, who is also a member. Dave McGahee. What's up, Dave? He says, I love that Pat name-dropped Chris Jones with this negotiation going on. Excellent teammate. That was in reference to our video yesterday about Mahomes becoming more like Brady, explaining why he wants to take the pay cut, how Chris Jones needs to get paid, needs to get in camp. He wants to see Travis Kelce get paid. There's a lot of Chiefs Kingdom saying we don't need to pay these guys. Why is Chris Jones hijacking us? Why is he demanding money and hijacking them? Patrick Mahomes is on board with us. Pay Chris Jones. He's worth it. I think that was a subtle hint. I think it was a not so subtle hint to Brett Veach and them to get him in camp and pay him.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We've talked about this time and time again. Mahomes took less on his contract to be able to have a team around him that lets him win Super Bowls.
100.
That's the whole point. And you're not winning a Super Bowl without Chris Jones there anchoring your defense this season. You're just not going to do it. So I think he said that literally to be like, hey, I want Jones here. I took less money for things like this. Get it done. I think it was a not so subtle hint. And I love it, and I'm with Dave McGahee. I think it's awesome that he threw his name out there. That's a great teammate to have, and I'm glad that Patrick Mahomes actually, a little sideways, not directly to management or anything, but he got out there and said, hey, this is what I want. Get it done.
Right. I think with the team fully intact, repeating a Super Bowl is tough. I would say you couldn't be no better than a 20 to 25% chance to repeat once the season starts. Without Chris Jones, you're looking at probably less than 10%, less than 5% chance of repeating.
If you take your game changer off the defense.
Right. I don't think Chiefs Kingdom's grasping this. I think that they're so easy to say, trade them, we'll replace them, and I don't think they're actually thinking it through. They're worried more about money that's not in their pocket. Looking a little bit like Florio's out here, Steve. Let's move it on to number 2. Second comment, rather. Ron says, Sky is going to be a good receiver because he has good hands. He's fast and shifty in small bursts. If he becomes a deceptive route runner, then it's over for the league. Ron, we happen to think Sky Moore is a deceptive route runner, Steve. What do you think?
Yes. I think it's already over for a lot of them. You guys are going to see Sky Moore go absolutely ham this season. I just fully believe that. I think that he's going to get more opportunities, and I think that he has all the skills necessary. And I think that he's the perfect wide receiver to have all of that perfect storm inside of an Andy Reid offense.
Right.
So I think him and Mahomes get on the same page this year. They got a good chemistry, and I think that Sky Moore's going to go crazy, dude. He's been giving the defense absolute fits during training camp already because of mismatches and things like that.
100%.
The guy's just super fast. He can do a lot of things right. I don't really know of any flaws with Sky Moore other than returning punts. I mean, other than that, I think this guy's solid.
Yeah, as long as they keep Sky Moore on the sidelines when the punt team comes out, he's going to be fine. He really is. Sky Moore doesn't have a lot of weakness in his game. His biggest weakness might be his size, his height, weight combination, and that might be the biggest thing. Let's move it on to comment number 3. We got Yogi in the house. Yogi
what up,
says,
Yogi?
Myself, I was always confident in our receiving core, but I was never expecting too much out of KT due to the injuries. A lot of us were that way, Yogi.
Right.
He says, I do believe Sky and MVS will both have 750 to 950 yard seasons. I think Tony and James can have 450 to 550 yards apiece, and then sprinkle Rice and Watson and Ross in, and 1,200 from them. 1,200 from Kelce. That equals 5,000 for Mahomes. Boom shakalaka. Steve, do you think Kelce's going to get the 5,000 yards, and you believe that that Yogi's assessments here for the wide receivers are about spot on, or do you think he's off just a tad bit?
I don't think Kelce's going to get to 5,000 yards, but Mahomes might. And Kelce will have another 1,000-yard season. I kind of like the way he broke this down here. I think that Patrick Mahomes hits the 5,000-yard mark. I've said before, I think that that's kind of where the baseline is for Mahomes now, right? Like, is he going to – it's going to be around 5,000 yards. Is he going to be close to it, or is he going to eclipse it? That's kind of the basis for Mahomes. I think Yogi's pretty spot on here. Of course, that could all change depending on who gets more targets and this and that, but I think it's pretty close to it, and I would say that probably spot on.
Right. The only knock I would have is maybe Kadarius Toney. If he stays healthier for the majority of the season, which, good Lord, we don't even know. He should have more than 450 to 550.
A lot of what ifs here. I mean, if Kadarius Toney stays on the field, he's definitely going to have way more yardage than that. But I think he's trying to project a little bit of the injury stuff.
Very smart. Good comment, Yogi. We appreciate you. Hey, Slade Master. Awesome video, guys. Can't wait until the season starts. I keep forgetting about Richie James. Our wide receiver core is going to be legit. He's right, man. People are forgetting about Richie James. People kind of forgetting a little bit about Justin Watson, even though he's been starting with the ones.
Well, when you have so many good, talented receivers on your roster, and none of them are like the big name proven guy, it's really easy to forget one here and there, especially when you got guys like Justin Ross that's getting a ton of hype and out there and backing it up. So, yeah, of course, he's going to be the first guy off of a lot of people's tongue when they're talking about wide receivers here. So Richie James and Justin Watson, some of those guys, they fall down by the wayside, but they're all competing for this roster, man. And I seriously think this could be the year that the Chiefs take 7 wide receivers, which seems ridiculous because Reed don't even necessarily take 6 a lot of the time, but he did last season. So I think they go ahead and up at 1. There's just so much talent here, man. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I think we're all starting to project now 7. It's got to be that number because ideally with this many good receivers, 6 is where you want to sit, but we're all starting to come around to the possibility that Kadarius Toney may not be healthy as he thinks he will in week 1. And even if he is, how about we just take the cautious approach, maybe throw him on IR, and as soon as he's, on the 53, basically the guys get cut for a day and they come right back with somebody like a Watson or a Richie James, maybe even a Blake Bell, somebody like that you could do that with, and you could finagle 7 wide receivers out there and give everybody a shot. It's a Julia. Is it Julia? Julia? Is that who this is? These first 2 preseason games are going to tell us everything we need to know. Julia's right. I think we are going to learn a lot in the first preseason games, but you're not going to see a lot of starters in the first few preseason games, I don't think. I wonder how they'll do the starter split, Steve. They used to do 4 games, and they'd let the starters play a lot week 3. Do the starters play a lot week 2 now, do you think?
I think they play like Mahomes, and then we're going to play like a drive. There might be one game. There used to be one game where they would play a whole quarter.
Week 3.
They
play a whole half.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know. We'll see. But I think she's right. We'll know a little bit more about what's going on with these position battles after we get to preseason. It's a little bit easier to evaluate these guys in a real game situation as opposed to the training camp practices. So I think it'll be a good thing to get to see some of these receivers actually out there on the field against competition. Same with the defensive backs and stuff.
But still, you got to look at it this way as well. You might not see a big game from Richie James. You might not see Justin Ross shine during these preseason games because you got to remember, Mahomes ain't throwing on the ball. It's going to be Michelle and Gabbert now.
Right.
So they may have trouble. Gabbert's learning a whole new offense. They're going against live competition. Michelle is still borderline QB2, QB3 position. There's a possibility some of these guys, Rashee Rice, all these guys that are going to get some playing time here in these preseason games, they may not look as sharp as they will look with a Mahomes at quarterback. Obviously.
Right, but I think that maybe you'll see Andy Reid cycle in some of those receivers and stuff into the first team, like as soon as they start. That way you can get a little bit of glimpse of, we know what Justin Watson's like with Patrick Mahomes,
right? But
we don't know what Richie James is like with Patrick Mahomes in an in-game situation. Same with Justin Ross. Those will be the kind of guys I think you might see out there early. And then you'll have a lot of people being like, hey, Justin Ross was starting in this preseason game, so they're going to go really high with it. But really, at the same time, it's like I think they're just trying to get an idea of how this is going to be.
I feel like
I think you'll see a lot of that.
I feel like against the Saints, what you see out there is probably what they're projecting in camp right now as the number ones. But then the week 2 game, you may see a lot more different guys going into, like you said, Justin Ross, Richie James, maybe they'll start sliding into that first slot to get some throws from Mahomes so they can get that on tape. Moving along, Columbia 2635. People saying we didn't need D-Hop before is not equivalent to people saying we need a wide receiver now. Injuries, fellas, but I think you know that. Are you sure you're not trying to be dramatic and negative? Columbia. Steve, do you want to address Columbia?
What did he say?
Yeah, so I'm not really sure how we were being negative or whatever he said. Basically what we were saying was a lot of Chiefs Kingdom.
We can't win.
A lot of Chiefs Kingdom that did not want D-Hop are now the same people that's screaming that the wide receiver room is weak.
Right.
Like, that's the same people. And if you're saying that the only difference there is because there was an injury to Kadarius Toney, maybe you should stop to think just for a second that maybe some of us that wanted to get a true wide receiver one in here or somebody proven, we saw that coming. A lot of us can look into the future and see that there's possible injuries. We talked about that over and over again.
Ray Charles
when we evaluated D-Hop. When we evaluated D-Hop coming over here, and we were like, well, it would be good to have that because we don't know about Kadarius Toney. We don't know if he can stay on the field. Anyone with any sense knew that was an issue. I just think this is a silly comment here. Like, I don't know what he's trying to prove with it, but it's just bad.
I don't know.
It's
It
bad.
sounded like you're just trying to be a little smart ass. Didn't really play. We wasn't being negative. We were just telling you the truth. I think you just got called out on some of the BS, and people don't like getting called out. Like Steve said, the people that didn't want Kadarius Toney as the number one said it was all injury problems. Nothing to do with that. Just the fact that he got injured 4 plays, and now you guys wanted the big wide receiver. 4 plays ago, we were fine. I don't understand that one.
Hey,
we had the foresight.
Mike, you know what's fun?
What?
You know what's really fun? Being petty. You know what else is fun? Alley-oop.
Boom, shakalaka. Get out of here, Columbia. Actually, you can stay.
Got dunked on.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And with that, time is yours. Steve, let's jump into our last story of the day. This is a fun one here. The Kansas City Star. Kansas City Chiefs players are confident they could survive a zombie apocalypse. The article goes on to say, one fun feature at this year's Chiefs training camp in St. Joe has been a daily question for the players as they take the field. These aren't probing queries, mind you. The players have been asked about topics such as how many chicken nuggets they could eat in one sitting, what reality show they would be on, and how long they could survive a zombie apocalypse. Members of the Chiefs social media team have shared the videos to the team's TikTok, and they've been fun. Chiefs players are confident they would do well if zombies appeared on the scene. These were some of the responses. I can let you read the quotes, or I can just let you watch the video, and that's what I'll do. Let's go.
Oh, man, I'm surviving all day, baby. I'm the last alive.
No, I am prepared for this. I'm like, this is me.
They're also confident.
I'm making it all the way to the end, yo.
Oh, man.
Y'all about to sit here and ask that question? Come on, now.
I'll be the last person to get turned into a zombie.
Listen to Jalen Watson.
Apocalypse, I'm good for at least 3 years. I'll last forever. How long I'm gonna last? How long is the zombie gonna last?
I am a zombie.
That's the comment I like. Steve, would the Chiefs players actually, sir? I would think that with them being athletes, they're equipped to move, get out of the way. But
Right.
Are these zombies like you see on The Walking Dead? Are these the slow ones, the old school? Or are these the ones from the those horror movies like 28 Days Later and Train to Busan that are just like fast zombies, man?
Hey,
Which one are they?
Either way, whether they're slow, fast, whatever it might be, if there's a zombie apocalypse and I had to hold up with one Chiefs player
Ooh,
to help
this
me,
is good.
I have my answer, and I want you to try to guess it.
Dude. Okay. I'm going to guess that it's got to be somebody that's crafty, somebody that's fast and agile, I would think. Then again, you could go a totally different way. But I'm going to say you're going to take Travis Kelce.
That answer is incorrect,
Ooh.
sir. I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The reason being, he's a hunter. This guy's good with guns.
That's true. But he's
He
always
knows how
injured,
to-
Steve. What are you going to do if he's down for 2 weeks? That's like
he's
taking
fast.
Kadarius Toney. He's going to be out with a
He's
hamstring.
fast. He's also small, so if we need to get in the small places, I can send him.
That's a good one.
He's fast, athletic. You know, like I'm saying, he's a hunter. I think that's the way to go. I would take Clyde.
I would maybe consider Chris Jones or Colburn because they're big guys. They're going to shield a lot of zombies from me. They're just brute strength. If something's locked and we need some supplies, they can just rip the doors off the hinges, baby. But the downside is they're going to out-eat you, so you ain't going to get to eat, which means on the positive side, we're going to have a six-pack in the zombie apocalypse, baby.
You could just take Patrick Mahomes and have him throw things at the zombies' heads. Like if he can penetrate them and hit their brain, they're dead. So, I mean, maybe you don't even need guns and live ammunition. Maybe you just need
That's true.
He can just throw fastballs.
But he is a goat, and they'll sniff that goat out, and they'll attack us at all times. I thought that was a funny question. Steve, how long do you think you'd last in a zombie apocalypse? Because sometimes you're like, hey, confidence tells me I could do it. But then have you ever been in those really small spaces with lots of people, and you're like, my God, if this was a zombie apocalypse, I'd be destroyed.
Considering I have way too many people to keep up with, I have too many kids, and I'm tired, I don't give myself long, man. I'd have to have a good group of people around me. That's why I had to be smart in my decision on which Chiefs player I'd hoard up with.
That's true. You do have a lot of kids, though, that you can use as bait, and all you got to do is outrun them. No, I'm joking. That's horrible. That is horrible.
Michael.
Anyways, what? Are you going to tell me I'm a horrible human? Hey, I'd gladly get eaten by a zombie to let the kids go, I guess. But that's going to wrap it up for today, man. It's been a fun one. It's been a good one. Chiefs are going to be back at camp tomorrow on Wednesday. Pads are going to be back on. They're going to be hitting a little bit. We're getting closer to the first preseason game against the Saints. But with that, Steve, we're going to wrap it up for today. You guys be sure to hit that sub button. Click that bell so you know when we're coming out with a new video. And as always, thanks for watching. Go Chiefs.
Aside from my soul.